Hey, this is Ben Ingram from the Atlanta Braves Radio Network, and it's time to go riding with the Braves, presented by Chevrolet. See who else is joining us today. Riding with the Braves, and today joining us, Braves third base coach Matt Tuiasosopo. We're driving in the Chevy Traverse, which they tell us is first in class. Great cargo space. It's a nice little rig, isn't it?
Real nice.
Got the AC blowing. We got a huge display here, and good smooth ride for our ride along today. How you been doing? Everything all right?
Good, yeah.
Very good.
Enjoying my first year up here.
What do you think about all this? On a coaching staff in the big leagues, put in a lot of hard work for this, you know.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, obviously we got a great staff, to work with, Snit and Walt and everybody else. But the players, man, just a special group of players.
Yeah.
Just how close they are. You see it from afar, but when you're in the midst with them, every day, and just to see how genuine the relationships are, how close knit the group is. It's a special group to come to work.
All right, we're going to ask you about coaching and everything a little while later, but I want to go back to you and your playing career. There's one thing I want to really start off with. How often do you remind Chris Sale that you took him deep when you were playing in the big leagues?
I did a interview one time this year, and I probably should have denied that, because once that hit, I was on the plane, and I walked back to where the players were playing cards, and I just was hanging out, and Travis goes, "Hey, who's the biggest pitcher you hit a home run off of?" And I knew they had all seen it and were talking about it. And I didn't say Chris right away, but obviously we all laughed about it. And I loved playing against him. He's such a competitor, and you always love competing against the best. And so he was tough, man.
Yeah, definitely. Well, in your playing career, you choose the baseball route, but you could have gone football or baseball, couldn't you?
Good, yeah. I came up in a football family. My dad played at UCLA. He was a first-round pick with the Seahawks. Played with the 49ers, won a Super Bowl with the 49ers, Super Bowl 19 against the Dolphins. And so I grew up, wearing his helmets, wearing his jerseys around the house. And I had two older brothers that went to University of Washington and played. And my oldest brother was a quarterback. He played with the Raiders for about 7 years, and then the Jets for one. So I wanted to be kind of like him, and I was a quarterback coming up, and I signed a letter of intent to play at University of Washington as well. I had told all the schools that were recruiting me that I was waiting for the draft in June, and if I was given an opportunity to play Major League Baseball and pursue that's what I wanted to do. So I just kind of went through that whole process of talking to scouts for different teams, and a lot of teams kind of backed off just because of my letter of intent that I had signed.
Right.
And Seattle Mariners, fortunately they gave me a shot. I was drafted in the third round, and I put the football away and never looked back.
Was it a tough choice given how everybody else in your family went football and played in the NFL?
I'd spent a lot of time talking with my mom and dad, leading up, kind of really throughout my entire senior year of that baseball season. And I was like, this is what I want to do. If a team will give me a chance, this is what I want to do. I'd had a couple knee injuries my junior year and senior year in football. And so just looking at the longevity of, both sports, and, I just wanted to, it wasn't really that I wanted to veer off and do my own thing. It's just in my heart, baseball just kind of kept popping up. It's like baseball. And so I had a meeting with the Mariners the day before the draft, and I gave them my word that if they had taken me, they didn't have a first or second round pick, so their first pick was the 93rd pick overall. And so I gave them my word that if they picked me, and obviously there was discussions about what it would take to sign me, if they would meet our needs and stuff, that I would sign.
Right.
And so kind of when that pick happened and the decision was already made just with our prior meeting the day before, that I told them that I wouldn't back out, that I was definitely going to sign a professional baseball contract.
Which had to be a dream come true for you, not just to be with a Major League Baseball team, but you grew up going to Mariners games, didn't you?
I did. I grew up
So that's your hometown team.
grew up in the time when it was Griffey and Jay Buhner and Edgar Martinez, and A-Rod was there, and so I grew up watching some great teams, and got to go to the Kingdome a few times for some games, and um, it was really a special feeling to know that the home team, you know, it was kind of a win-win, right? I was either going to University of Washington and staying home, or I got to play for the hometown big league team.
So when we went to Seattle earlier this season, did you have a bunch of family and friends who were there to hang out with you?
I did. So when I first was hired, I looked at the schedule immediately to see if we were going to Seattle, and I was excited to see we were going there early, and immediately in our family thread, they were like, "Oh, we got to get a suite," and I was like, "Well, y'all can't. I ain't paying for it though." So my youngest sister, actually, she's a high school teacher, athletic director at a nearby high school where we grew up, and she started working her network, and was able to get a suite right there on the third base side. So that suite was full of all of our immediate family and close friends and people that mean a lot to me. And so that first night was the biggest group that showed up.
I bet it was. What an impressive family. I bet you get to brag about them all the time, all of them.
We're very blessed. God's blessed us, just with a big loving family.
Mm-hmm.
We're passionate about the things that we do. We love God, we love people, and we love doing whatever it is, with all of our heart and soul, and just, really trying to be great in anything that we do.
Yeah.
So, we grew up being passionate about sports, So
yeah, that's right.
That's what we've all chased after.
Where along in your career did that passion turn from, okay, I'm playing, to, hey, you know what, maybe when I'm finished, I might want to go into coaching and managing one day?
My last couple years in AAA, I started declining in production, and just results weren't there really anymore. And I spent about 10 years really at either in the big league level or in AAA, and
Right.
I noticed the game was getting younger, obviously, and so I was spending a lot of time, just seeing these young prospects that were coming up that were very talented, and I caught myself just having a lot of conversations with them. They would ask me questions, and the joy of giving those younger guys everything that the game has taught me, and little nuggets here, little nuggets there, just loving on them, serving on them, in their tough moments and their battles, and just seeing just the peace and freedom and joy that they would then go on and play with. That's when I realized that this is what I do. Obviously, my dad spent time coaching after his career. My brother and sister, they're coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I think me and my siblings, we love sports so much that I don't think we could do anything else.
Just to be around it to some degree.
Exactly. And so I love people. I love being around people. I love building relationships with people, and really, that's what it boils down to. What coaching really is all about is building relationships, being able to connect with your players, and teaching. So it seemed like a natural, transition.
It's interesting because people would think that you just go from playing to, I can coach or I can manage. It's not that easy. I mean, you can play the game. There are probably some players who you might ask them, have you ever actually sat down and watched one of these things and thought about all the moves that take place, from making out a lineup card all the way to managing a bullpen? And you might think you know a lot about it, but until you start to get into it, really spend some time into it, there's a lot that goes into that, isn't it?
It does. And you could play the game, for a long time, but I remember my first year managing in Low A with the Rome Braves team, and I remember that opening night. That game flew by so fast.
I bet.
So the game, I thought, well, I've been a part of, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games, but my first game as a manager, man, that game flew by so fast, and things were happening. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to start, we're in the 16 already, and so your mind has to constantly think way ahead of, you're in the second and third, you got to start thinking about the sixth, seventh, when you're in the fourth, fifth, you're thinking about the eighth and ninth, And so I just realized how fast the game is on this side.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember after the first couple weeks, it finally was like, okay, the game started slowing down again. And yeah, there's a lot of things that are on your plate that you have to think about, that you have to cover, that you have to handle, and I enjoy it.
When it comes to coaching third base, I think about how many reps it must take and things like that to really get good at that, because you're making some really critical decisions when you're sending runners, holding runners. Who did you learn a lot from when it comes to that, and what are you looking for? What makes a good third base coach when it comes to knowing who those outfielders are, who's got an arm you don't want to run against, who
Hmm.
does have an arm you want to run against? How does that all come about?
Yeah, so our field coordinator in 2019, my first year um, as a coach, was Doug Manzolino. And Doug Manzolino, he's been in the game forever, longer than I've been alive. He's been on a big league staff in multiple capacities. Um, he taught me a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a lot of conversations in spring training, my first spring training as a coach, and he gave me a lot of pointers. He really gave me a great foundation of becoming a good third base coach. And a lot of the one-liners that he would tell himself when he was coaching third base in the big leagues, the same one-liners that I always tell myself, almost every pitch, every inning of the game. But you have to be in the moment every pitch, and every new pitch is a new moment, right?
Right.
You're not thinking about what happened, the last play, last pitch. You're not looking forward. You're in every single pitch, and you can't take a pitch off. Obviously you got to be well prepared on, the opposition, your opponents. Not just the outfielders though, but the infielders, the arm strengths of every player on that field, the arm accuracy that they have, um, their speed, their range, how quick or slow do they cover balls, do they get to balls, and then you got to know your personnel, your runners that are on the bases, how fast they are, can they extend and have some gas in the tank left to,
Right.
to finish. So there's a lot of information that you're processing right before the pitch. And one of the liners I always tell myself is let the play develop. So you can have all the information. Okay, there's a guy out there that has a great arm. So like, that you see a ball hit and you can be like, well, I'm shutting it down because I know he has a good arm.
Sure.
So me saying, hey, let the play develop, maybe he didn't, get a good read on it. And by me allowing the play to develop and not making a decision too early, I can be like, oh, I can still send him, based on what my eyes tell me.
Yes.
So there's just little things like that. You have to, trust your eyes, trust your gut instincts. I always just kind of draw back. Like, you play this game, you've seen it with your eyes. Let your eyes tell you what to do.
Let's say let's say you got a guy in right field,
Mm-hmm.
big arm, and you got a runner coming and you're thinking about sending him. You know a guy's got a big arm, and a lot of times it might be enough to say, okay, I'm going to hold this runner at third base. When you say let the play develop, how often are you watching every movement of that guy, because there might be something in his mechanics that's slightly off. There could be a slight bobble, and
Mm-hmm.
that I'm sure it's hard in the moment to be patient to see everything and then make that split second decision. That's really tough.
Yeah, it is, and a lot of times, I'm really just looking at the defender, and I can see it in my peripheral. My guys coming, towards me, and I can kind of feel them. I can kind of gauge, how close they are to, you know, uh, third base. But yeah, I mean, you can see a guy charging hard, but last second he kind of stops, because maybe he got himself into a tough hop
Right,
right there in
right.
outfield, and then you'd be like, okay, like he lost momentum,
Mm-hmm.
let's go ahead and keep sending him. But it definitely is challenging, but it's fun. That's what makes it so great,
Yep.
because of how challenging it is. And again, it just goes back to trusting your baseball instincts, trusting what your eyes are telling you. You could have someone out there that doesn't have a good arm,
Right.
but and your first instinct is, you see ball hit, oh, we can challenge him, because the report on him is challenge him.
Right.
But if you feel like he closed on the ball so good and got to it so quickly, we got to shut him down right there. And so that one line is one of my favorites that Doug Mansley taught me, says, let the play develop. Do not make your decision, based off the information that you already have before pitch. Let the pitch happen, let the play happen, and as it's developing, you're processing it, and then go with your gut feel and what your eyes are telling you.
Yeah, that's really good advice. In this day and age, especially with this ball club, and you know who can run, but whether it be Witt or Jared or Michael or whomever, how often are players running with a sign versus they're running on their own? And if they're running on their own, do you know that that's coming?
Snick gives our runners, the green light until he puts on the red light, and so, um, you know, most of the stolen bases, probably if not all of them, have been on guys, reading their cues on when's a good time to go. Some pitchers, we know they have cues that we can, have tips that we can capitalize on and take a bag. On 3-2 counts, Skip will tell me, stop them or put them in motion. So I'm on, my eyes are on Snit every pitch, and I'm just relaying what he wants to happen.
Yeah. And for those guys who have a green light, I mean, Goody's on the other side. He's basically giving them how much time it's taken for this pitcher to deliver to the plate. And I guess in their mind at that point, it's just a math equation, isn't it?
Correct. Yep. You gotta understand who's good on the mound at controlling, the run game. Whether they're quick to the plate, and then you also have to understand who's behind the plate. So a guy like, JT Realmuto, who's got a good arm. Patrick Bailey in San Fran has a good arm. You have to understand both, parts of the battery.
Right.
Because just because you got a guy that's a little bit slower to play, if the guy behind the plate can make up for it with a strong arm, that's why Goody does a good job of doing his homework and giving all the guys information. There's certain counts that are great to run on, because sometimes pitchers, they get in their same routines of maybe on a specific count they don't ever pick off, and so there's just little knowledge like that. And then obviously there's tips. Pitchers, maybe he only looks twice, or maybe he takes a deep breath right before he goes to the mound. Like, any little advantage that we can get as a base runner to get the best possible jump. Goody does a great job of picking those things up on film, and he relays that to the runners, and then the runners can decide if they want to go or not.
If you're facing a team that maybe you're not all that familiar with, somebody who's not in your division, when do you start prepping for that next series and looking at those arms and looking at the infielders and the outfielders and who you want to run against and not run against, I guess?
Yeah, I'll always, I'll get information, the night before, and then I have, stuff that I look at on my own, on my computers and stuff. But I do most of my scouting the morning of the first game of the series, and I'll watch on my iPad, film of the outfield arms, and I can look at all the different angles, camera angles that we have, the live feeds. But then I can have a, over the field shot, so I can see the entire field, so I can see, the outfielders' range, and how quickly they range the balls in the gaps and down the lines, and then I can see, I can really see how strong their arm is from the over the field, shot.
Right.
I can see how far their ball goes. If I can see if their balls die, or if they have some extra life to it. And then I'll watch infielders' arms. I like to watch relays. Balls in the gap, to see how good they are at relays. And then the other scouting stuff that I will do is, because Walt and I do the infielders, then I'll do all the spray charts. So I gotta check out all the defensive infield positioning for us in our infielders. So that's mainly all the scouting, that I'll do.
Well, it's funny because you think about our ballpark. You know how the ball is going to play there.
Mm-hmm.
You got 81 games there. We go to these other ballparks. Not every field's the same.
No.
So many different dimensions, and that could change everything in terms of how you're preparing for a team, how they pursue a ball in the gap and what they look like doing that in one ballpark as opposed to another ballpark, and all those things have to be taken accounted for, and really something that you have to adjust to. And I can't even imagine how that must change for you guys, ballpark to ballpark, how differently some of these places play.
Yeah, you think about like our left field, it's huge, right?
Right.
Especially left center gap. And then, we play in Boston.
Yeah.
I feel like that left fielder is like right on top of me.
Uh-huh.
Like Phillies, close, and so it's those smaller fields. It definitely makes it more challenging. Because a base hit here is an easy send for me sometimes, right?
Sure.
And we play in some of these smaller parks. Just kind of a medium hit base hit. Then that's where I have to make the tough,
Yeah.
call depending on who my runners are. But yeah, you got to take into account all of that. The field and the size of the outfield gaps and all that.
And on top of all that, for you to memorize, is these different celebrations that these players have when they hit home runs. When do you work on something like that? I mean, Travis is coming with the low five. Ozuna's got the crossover. When do you guys? Because you're in sync with all those things.
Yeah, it's all about the players. I mean, they tell me what they want to do, and I'm like, great, let's do it. Yeah, it's fun, and obviously it's a new game. It's we didn't do any of that stuff when I was playing because I would probably get one high and tight.
Yeah.
My next at bat, but it's fun, and guys enjoy it, and I kind of just do what they want to do.
How many different guys have come up to you and said, "Okay, here's what I want to do coming around third base"?
Well, every single one of them that has one. I mean, I think we about have close to half the position players that want something, and if we do something, there's, I remember asking Murphy, "Hey Murphy," and Olson too. "What do you guys want to do?" And he said, "Nope, just slap hands." I was like, "Great, perfect." I love it. It's funny. Whit Merrifield, it was just on the road trip. He's like, "You know why I haven't hit a home run? Because we haven't talked about what we're going to do
That's a
for our
good
celebration."
point.
I said, "Well, it's on you, man. What do you want to do?" He's like, "Let's do the football handoff." I'm like, "Perfect." And we had that conversation. It was like 3 days later, he hit
And
his
he
first
went
home
deep.
run. He was like, "See, we should have had this conversation my first day."
And you're putting it right in the breadbasket, right,
in
for
the
him?
breadbasket. That
That's awesome.
brings back some football memories.
That is so cool, man. Well, that's fun, and it's always great to hang out with you. And you've always been such a great asset to this organization. But now that you're here and with the big league club, this is awesome. Have really enjoyed being around you this season. Looking forward to many, many more. Thanks for riding with us.
Thanks, man.
You got
Appreciate
it. You got it.